All right, so I recently made a post on my YouTube as well as a post in my community on school asking you guys to ask me questions that you may have about phone flipping. And you guys asked me some questions, and I went ahead and I took, I believe, 10 of the most common ones that you guys seem to be having troubles with, or most common questions you guys had. So today I am going to be going for a drive and answering your questions. So first things first, I'm just gonna go ahead and get into the title of the video. Does phone flipping still work? Have I ruined it? Is it obsolete? Can you still make money doing this business? The answer is yes, absolutely. This business still works. You can still make money buying and selling phones. A couple smaller YouTubers like myself making videos about the business have not made a multi-billion-dollar used phone industry obsolete. Literally everyone has a phone, and no time soon are you not going to be able to learn how to buy a phone for below market value and sell it for a profit. I know the numbers on these videos probably make it seem like everyone is suddenly phone flipping, but even though some of these videos might have 50, 100,000 plus views on them, the amount of people that actually take action and do anything with these videos is unfortunately very small. Of all the people that watch these videos, the amount of people that will actually even look into this and even consider trying it is very small. And then of the amount of people that consider trying it, the amount of people that are then gonna go on and actually even spend more than 20 minutes before deciding that the business doesn't work is even smaller. And then of those people, the very small amount of people that actually ever end up even buying a phone and flipping it, the amount of people that continue to do it consistently and actually put the effort into building a business out of it is even smaller. So regardless of the numbers that you see on videos or the other people you see doing this, there is still way more phones out there to be purchased than there is people doing this business. And at no point do I see this suddenly just stopping to be an effective way to make money. It's also a local business, so even if there is more people overall doing the business, the chances are that someone where you are located is also doing it. And even if there is someone else local to you doing the business, the chances that they're buying so many phones that there's none for you to buy is also very low. So I wouldn't be too worried about phone flipping not being effective anytime soon or getting ruined by other flippers. Also, real quick, I am on a mission to create the largest community of iPhone resellers. There's a link in the description with everything you're gonna get if you choose to join the community. Click that link, you can learn more down below. It's only like $20, an insane amount of value. That's the plug for the video. Let's move on. All right, so the next question is, how many messages are you sending out in a day, and how many of them respond within 24 hours? So I wish I had a more direct answer here, but pretty much as many good deals that are posted in a day is the amount of messages you should be sending ideally. I get where you're coming from, and I could see why, based on other business models, why it might make sense to focus on quantity of reach outs and how many times you message people. But there's enough variance in the market that I'd much rather you focus your energy on how often you're checking marketplace and how often you're looking for deals, because in my experience, good deals that are profitable usually sell within like 2 to 3 hours, and the absolute like best deals that are like really profitable that sell quick, those are usually gone in like 5 to 10 minutes. So if you want something to focus on that you could increase, I'd focus on increasing how often you're checking marketplace and how often you're searching for phones, because the more you increase that and the more time you spend checking marketplace, the more deals you're gonna get. And then as far as how many messages, you should literally just be sending a message for anything that's near your target buying price as many times as you can in a day. Obviously, I don't know your schedule. I don't know if you're doing this as a side hustle, if you're doing it full time. So how often you check is gonna vary on your schedule and what you have going on. But when you are checking and when you are making it a point to be checking marketplace, more is going to be better and is going to get you more deals. Which ties pretty well into the next question, which is, how do I get more responses from sellers more often? So usually if you're sending messages and you're not getting responses, it is a you problem, and it is usually one of two things is what seems to be the most common issues I see. Number one is actually super easy to fix. You gotta make sure you're using a real Facebook account and you're not using like a spam account, and you gotta make sure you have a profile picture of yourself and you're just looking friendly and welcoming, as lame as that sounds. People don't like meeting up with strangers as it is, so if you're using a spam account or something to send messages, the likelihood that people are gonna be willing to respond to you and willing to meet up with you just decreases a lot if they don't know who they're meeting up with or your profile is not particularly welcoming. So yeah, just nice picture of you smiling, real Facebook account, real profile. Make yourself presentable and looking like someone that people would feel comfortable meeting up with in public. And then the next most common thing that is actually very common is just what the actual first message you're sending is. In my opinion, your first message should be very simple. You should literally just be making an offer on the phone and letting them know what you're willing to pay, and ideally letting them know how quickly you're willing to meet up, and that's it. You don't want to ask them a bunch of questions. You don't want to send the generic, hi, is this still available? Just let them know what you're willing to pay and how soon you're willing to meet up, and you will get a response much quicker. All right, sorry, so camera overheated. It's probably gonna overheat again in just a second, but more or less, it's either your profile or the messages you're sending. If you improve both of those things and do what I just said, you are going to get more responses. Moving on to question number Number four. So how to negotiate to get more leads. So I'd assume how to negotiate to get more deals is probably what you're asking, because you wouldn't necessarily negotiate to get leads. When it comes to negotiating to get more phones, my approach is fairly simple when it comes to negotiating. If you're trying to buy a phone for below market value, frankly, you're just not offering the most money. Pretty much the only reason someone will ever sell for below market value and is willing to take a bit of a lower amount for a phone is based on the likelihood that you're actually going to purchase the phone and how easy that they think you're going to make the sale on them. So I always recommend leveraging that and negotiating from a perspective of how likely you are to meet up and how easy you're going to make their life, and just letting them know that you can meet up quickly, that you're for sure willing to pay that amount, and just really communicate that you're going to be the easiest option for them, because that's really all you have going for you. And if you do that, some people are going to value their time and they're going to choose to sell to you because you're the easiest option. And some people, quite frankly, do just want the most amount of money for their phone, so they're going to say no to you. That's kind of to be expected when you're doing this, but there's more than enough people who are willing to sell for below market value for a simpler sale. So just when you do message, communicate that you're going to be the easiest option. You're going to close a lot more deals that way, and the people that don't value that don't value it. So you probably won't buy phones from them, but there's plenty of other phones to pick up from other people. What I will say that you absolutely shouldn't do is don't argue with people about what their phone's worth, because if you can flip it for a profit, the reality is it is probably worth more and they can get more. So one, you'll save a lot of time not bothering with arguing with people about phone values. But two, if you leave on good terms and just let them know that if they change their mind, you're willing to buy anytime, and lean into the fact that if they change their mind, you'll be the simplest option. It doesn't always work, but leaving the potential sale open is always going to get you a lot more deals than you're going to get if you argue with people about price and try to tell them their phone's not worth that. You're not going to get any deals arguing with people. I'll say that. All right, so next question. What are your thoughts about Facebook ads for reselling? So depends on what you're talking about here. Overall, I think Facebook ads or ads in general are a great way to get leads in any business, and they can be effective. But my assumption is that you're probably talking about the cash for phones ads that people run and that a lot of people recommend. In my opinion, cash for phone ads do not work very well. The creative is bad. People are pretty much trained to scroll right past a cash for phone ad, and I personally don't like them. So if that's what you're talking about, not the biggest fan of them. They could work to some extent, and there's people who use them to get phones. I just personally think compared to a cash for phone ad, a lot of people really underestimate the value of the leads you're getting for free from Facebook Marketplace. If someone has gone out of their way to list a phone on Facebook Marketplace and they're willing to go through the hassle of listing it, meeting up, and selling it, 9 times out of 10, they're just a lot more motivated to actually set up a deal and get their phone sold than someone who might reply to a cash for phones ad or might be pricing out their phone amongst a bunch of different cash for phones ads. It's very rare that people go to their way to list on Facebook Marketplace if they're not willing to meet up. And in my experience, that just makes it a lot easier to buy from people who have listed a for sale ad on Facebook Marketplace rather than someone who replied to an ad. And I think they're better quality leads. They're free. That doesn't mean cash for phone ads don't work. They could be an addition to your business if you need it, but I don't know. I've been able to make very good money just by sticking to buying on Facebook. And most people have not reached a level of total phones purchased that they need to start paying for leads when they could get them completely free from Facebook. That doesn't mean they don't work. That doesn't mean there's not a way you could make ads work if you build a real brand and you do marketing around it and make actual good ad creative. There's definitely a play for that, and I'm probably going to be exploring that. But if you just want to post a generic cash for phone ad and expect to get a bunch of people trying to sell you phones, I don't think it's the best option. There's definitely people who are going to disagree with me on that and swear by ads, but most of those people are selling a several $1,000 course showing you how to do ads. So you can do with that what you will. So what to do with phone flipping if the market is too slow and expensive? You're probably not going to like my answer to this one, but chances are if you think the market is overall too slow or expensive, it's more than likely something about your process and it's a skill issue rather than an issue with the market. I'm not going to deny that there is absolutely more busy periods of the year and there's months that are slower than others, and there is fluctuations in the market in terms of quantity of deals, and there is times when it's a lot easier. Between like September to like January, it's pretty much free money, the amount of deals that are there. But I have never in the entire time that I've been doing this business had a month where I just couldn't make money doing the business. There's always deals to be had. And if you're looking at a market and just feeling as though there's no deals and it's too high and overall the market's the problem, chances are it is a skill issue and there's something in your process that you need to change, which sucks, but it's also kind of good news because it means it's something you can improve. As far as what it could be specifically that is making you unable to get deals or making you think that the market is the issue, the first thing I would look at is probably the frequency of your searches, as mentioned earlier in the video. If you're checking once a day, there's a good chance that there was good deals, but they already sold because they sold within 2 to 3 hours of them being posted. So increasing your search frequency will increase how many deals you get. Another one that's pretty common is people have a really small search radius. If your search radius is like 5 miles, it's going to be tough to get a lot of deals. So you could up that. And then this one's kind of the same as search frequency, but consistency does also matter. So if you check Monday and Tuesday and they're potentially slower days and you just give up for the week, there's a real chance that there was a lot of deals on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that you didn't get because you gave up and you got kind of burnt out on it. So it is pretty important that you're consistent with your searches to be able to make money any month, regardless of how busy the market is. And then obviously everything I said earlier, the messages you're sending, your negotiations, stuff like that is going to have a pretty big impact on how many deals you actually end up getting. So I'd take a look at everything you're doing. It's more likely there's something in your process you're doing wrong that you could fix that's going to solve everything, and that it is that the market's just bad and you can't make money flipping phones. So how do you find phones locally other than on Facebook Marketplace? I always say Facebook because it's the most common one that everyone has, but you should be checking pretty much any marketplace that people use near you. So if people use OfferUp, if they use Craigslist, Kijiji, there's different marketplaces all over the world. Whatever people use, you should add those to what you're checking when you're checking marketplaces. I always say Facebook because it's the easiest one that most people have, but check everything consistently. There's a lot of deals to be had on all the platforms. Next question. why do you only resell iPhones? So you could sell whatever you want. You could sell Androids, you could sell anything else. I'm not against it if that's what you want to sell. In my experience, the iPhone market is just the biggest market, and it has more profitability in my experience is what I've seen from iPhones. And everyone has an iPhone. There's just the most people looking to buy iPhones, so it makes them quicker to sell. It makes the whole process a lot easier. You could absolutely resell iPads, you could resell Androids, you could resell whatever you want. But across the board, I find it easier to get good deals on iPhones because there's so many more and there's such a much larger market. And there's also a much larger market to sell them. When someone's phone breaks, they want to replace it right away. So there's just always people buying phones and you could sell them much quicker. So I've always found it to be a lot easier to do iPhones over anything else. But you can resell whatever you want. Is selling phones as is on eBay or fixing them and flipping them on eBay the better business path long term? All right, so I personally think that for most people, selling them as is going to be the best option long term. In my experience, at most, if you fix them and then resell them, you might make an extra maybe $20 to $30 on a phone when you sell it repaired versus as is. And quite frankly, I just don't think that is worth the extra time it takes. Even if someone's repairing them for you, it's not worth the extra time it takes to get the extra $20 to $30. And it's definitely not worth the extra risk you take on when you do fix the phone, because if you're opening up a phone, if you're doing work on it, you are adding additional risks. And I just don't think it's worth the potential return risk for an extra $20 to $30. Unless that's your entire business model and you just want to buy phones for a higher price and fix them because you don't want to pick them up. But that's a completely different thing. For most people, you're going to make a lot more money if you focus on getting more deals with that time and getting more total flips than worrying about adding $20 to $30 to fix phones. All right, so question number 8. Do you think reselling iPhones back onto Marketplace is worth it to avoid eBay fees? Definitely not. I don't think avoiding eBay fees is a good idea at all. And I do think that by far the most money you're going to make overall is going to come by selling onto a platform like eBay over Facebook Marketplace. If you're buying and intending to sell on eBay, you should be factoring in any eBay fees when you're deciding if a phone is a good deal to buy or not. If you don't have profit after eBay fees, then you just shouldn't buy that phone. But across the board, for pretty much 90% of devices, if you actually look at the numbers, even after eBay fees, you are going to make more money on that phone than you would on Facebook, pretty much across the board, especially for damaged phones and the phones with more random issues. eBay is a global market where there's just buyers for like absolutely everything, and they're willing to pay a premium for the most random phones, which is why I'm able to get such good prices for a lot of phones because of the size of the market eBay gives you access to. So I don't think it ever really makes sense to sell back on Facebook when you have access to something like eBay. Not only do you get more money, but it's also just like substantially more scalable to sell on eBay versus Facebook. There comes a point where if you're buying on Facebook and then selling back on Facebook, you have to be messaging and trying to set up meetups with every single person to not only buy a phone, but also to sell a phone, and adding in the process of negotiating and setting up meetups to sell phones, in addition to having to go set up meetups to buy them, makes it a lot harder to scale this and a lot harder to increase how much inventory you're buying. Versus if you use something like eBay, you can list multiple phones on eBay in a day. eBay is going to do all the work. When a phone sells, it takes you like 5 minutes to pack it up. You can pack 5 phones at once and ship them out at once. Across the board, if you want to scale this, eBay is just going to be a much better option than Facebook Marketplace. And I don't even think Facebook Marketplace is a viable option unless you're selling like 1 phone a day. And if that's the case, you have a buying problem, not a selling problem. So how to keep track of your income on Excel. So I personally have always used Google Sheets. They're pretty much the same thing. But pretty much you could learn how to actually like set up a sheet on YouTube. It's fairly straightforward if you want to just make a basic sheet. But all you want to track with any sort of sheet, if you do make one, is you want to track when you bought the phone, what you paid for it, as well as when you sold the phone and what you sold it for. As long as you track those things, you will be able to track what you made weekly, monthly, or whatever metric you are looking for. Just track those things and you will very easily have an idea of how much money you are making. That being said, there is also a template available in the community that you get as soon as you join that does all of that for you as well. So there is that as well if you want to use that one. All right, so this is going to be the second last one that we answer today. Again, if you guys like these, let me know. Happy to make more of them. So how do you not get scammed when buying phones? This is very simple. I know a lot of people are worried about it. If you don't want to get scammed when you buy phones, all you have to do is follow 2 rules. Do not send deposits. Do not pay before you get there. The only time you should pay anyone for a phone that you're buying is in person once you meet up with them and you've checked the phone. As long as you don't send deposits or anything, you literally can't get scammed. They could waste your time, but you can't get scammed if you don't send anyone money before meeting up. And then number 2, when you meet up, just make sure that you test the phone before you give them any money. As long as you test the phone, there's videos on YouTube. I believe I have one up as well. You can very quickly learn how to test a phone. It takes a couple minutes. And if you test your phones before you buy them, you're not going to get scammed. Just don't pay them if the phone doesn't match what you're expecting. Moving on to our final question. Should I sell phones on Facebook Marketplace when starting out, or should I use eBay? This is probably going to sound a little contradictory to what I literally just said, but for your first flips, if you've never done it before, don't complicate it. Wherever you want to sell the phone. Just get your first flips out of the way as fast as possible. eBay is going to be the best option, but there is a learning curve, and if you're just getting your first flip, it might be a little bit overwhelming. So if you haven't flipped anything before and you just need to see that this works, list it wherever you want. List it on OfferUp, list it on Facebook, whatever you're most comfortable with. You might be leaving a little bit of profit on the table, but whatever you're most comfortable with, list it there. Just get your first sale out of the way, because for most people I find, they just need to see that they can make profit, and then it's a lot easier to repeat this process and feel more comfortable with it. But whatever it takes for you to get that first sale out of the way as quickly as possible and start making profit, the better. So sell wherever you want when you're first starting out. And then I would recommend getting on eBay as soon as possible once you've made some sales and building up an eBay store, because it's going to be a lot more scalable and a much better option.